Hello everyone, this is Sarah Vivacqua from Diário do Centro do Mundo. We are here today to talk about the disappearance of the British journalist and long-time contributor to The Guardian in Brazil, Dom Phillips, and the disappearance of Bruno Pereira, a former government official tasked with protecting Brazil's uncontacted tribes and one of the most respected indigenous experts in the country. We know that both of them, after going to a trip to a field search, disappeared. They were expected to arrive around 2 p.m. at Atalaia do Norte, but they failed to do so. Today I'm here with Lili Moyari, correct me if I'm pronouncing it wrong, a journalist and close and old friend of Dom Phillips. She's talking to me directly from Los Angeles. Lili, did I speak your name correctly? Moyari?
But I realize it's a little bit difficult for people. Good effort.
Lili, thank you so much for talking to us, being here with me, especially in such a sensitive time for you. So thank you so much for coming all the way from LA to our show.
Thank you for asking me. I really was happy to get your message because I do want to bring as much attention as possible to what's going on with Dom and with Bruno.
Lili, I begin by asking you, how do you know Dom Phillips? Who is he as a person and who is he as a journalist?
I met Dom in 1994 at a music conference in Miami, a dance music conference. I was an early journalist at the time. I'd only been doing it for 2 years, mainly at my school paper. Dom was already the editor of Mixmag, one of the most respected magazines, but especially probably the most respected magazine in dance music, like a Bible, certainly one of my Bibles. So meeting him was pretty exciting for me because I read the magazine so religiously. And he was very, very supportive from the beginning, very much encouraging, very helpful. Like I would ask him questions that I couldn't even ask my own editors. And I would say, I'm having an issue with this, or I want to do this. And he would help me. He would give me advice. He wouldn't be condescending in any way and would really listen to me and give me suggestions. Really brief, but simple and effective suggestions that I didn't forget. And we stayed in touch over the years. He left Mixmag and moved to Brazil. And I actually went and saw him in Brazil. I visited him when he was living in Sao Paulo. And again, same thing, but like I got even more one-on-one time with him. And we talked more about the times before, like the way I grew, the way he was changing, the decisions he made as far as his career goes and the moves he made. And again, it was just like amazing advice from him. And at the time, he was doing a lot of correspondence for different magazines and newspapers around the world. And then as time went by, he became more, pinned to certain outlets, which when I was in Brazil, I realized he speaks perfect Portuguese. Obviously, he speaks perfect English. He can write very professionally in both languages. So he was very valuable as a journalist. And I was like, wow, people must be jumping all over you. It's just so difficult to find someone who can navigate both these worlds so easily. And that's the one thing about Dom is he's hugely professional. Even when he was at Mixmag, in an environment that was much of a party environment and very hedonistic and everything, his work was still completely 100% professional, very thorough, at a much higher level, really, than even was required. And he maintained that all the time. And I think that was a huge part of why the magazine was doing so well, is because they had somebody who knew what he was doing at the head of it. And it's just, he's always been that professional person. When I was in Brazil with him, he actually got a call from a Brazilian footballer that he was supposed to interview. And it was just, again, one of those things where the footballer didn't speak English at all, but Dom's spoke Portuguese. And I was just like, so this guy who's like this elusive guy, very flaky, you've managed to track him down. You're going to do this interview with him, which is like a very hard to get one. And everything he did was thorough. It was very professional. I keep saying those two things because that is what he was. So if he's going into the Amazon, to research something, he's not just like randomly doing it. He's not doing it without a lot of thought put into it and without a lot of background research done into it. And he's with Bruno, who's an expert in this area. Of course, he gets the best person to accompany him down there and to give like the full report of what's going on. As I'm sure people might be aware, he was working on a book about the Amazon. And so he was deep in it, just like I would expect him to be, to do the research that's required to provide the comprehensive book on this topic.
You posted on Twitter quite recently, Dom Phillips is a very old, very good friend of mine. Some of you may remember him as the editor of Mixmag. I am extremely concerned about his whereabouts and his safety. Brazilian authorities must launch a search effort to find him. What do you think could have happened to him? Why do you think he could be a particular target in the Amazon?
Well, the Amazon, it's really easy to lose people in the Amazon, isn't it? There's nobody watching out there. Dom has been, I mean, for years, he's been writing articles about what's going on in Brazil for various international publications. He's very widely read, very widely respected. People do listen to him and people look to him for information. And I'm pretty sure the Brazilian authorities don't like that at all. And this is a very handy way to get rid of him and not have to answer for it. It's not anything very visible. It's not anything that anybody can research too much. It's very difficult to go down there, which is why it was so important for him to do this kind of coverage. It's a very easy way to make somebody disappear.
So he was known for his love of the Amazon, the indigenous community. He has traveled extensively to report on the crisis Brazil is facing in the environment, especially under Jair Bolsonaro, who is dismantling the whole structure protecting indigenous people against invasions in their lands. So Brazilian Ministry of Defense press releases stated the following: the Amazonian Military Command, the CMS, through the Border Command Solimão's 8th Jungle Infantry Battle, based in Tabatinga, close to the place where the missing were last seen, launched a search operation in the region of the municipality of Atalaia do Norte, employing a team of military jungle combatants using the boat Guardian. The social communication section of the Amazonian Military Command will update the information as facts evolve. Well, we know that after being in action, it took 48 hours and immense pressure for the media, from the family, from Amnesty International, Human Rights Watch, Amazon Watch, The Guardian itself, so that the Ministry of Defense in Brazil sent a humble boat with 10 soldiers to search in one of the most remote areas in the world. There was known that they received death threats. So probably it was not a case of somebody who know the area extremely well being missed. What is also striking in this note, Lily, is that their names are not mentioned, that disappeared, nor the circumstances of the time of their disappearance are mentioned. So why do you think Brazilian authorities are so ostensibly delaying action in finding Dom and Bruno?
For the same reasons that they're actually actively trying to get rid of him, them. This is really easy way to do it. And I think they're hoping that the interest will just die down and that they can just get away with not looking for them at all. Again, this was a very convenient way to get rid of him. It's actually horrifying to me to say these words. Like, in my head, I'm just thinking, oh my God, like this is actually happening to somebody I know. Because, you hear about journalists, in trouble all the time in difficult parts of the world, but it's just like, oh, but this is Dom. And this is actually happening to him. And from what I know of of Bolsonaro, he'll do whatever he wants. It's not like whatever he wants to get what he wants. And if that means making these people disappear, then that's fine. He can, I think it's understood amongst the Brazilian authorities that they're not expected to find him. They're not expected to put their best efforts forward to make sure that these two are found.
So on that same note, we know that initially the indigenous people themselves conducted search with help of the military police, given the omission by the federal public authorities. We know even that the army released a very bizarre note saying that it was capable of carrying out the search, but it would not because it was waiting highest order. You can read Bolsonaro. And Bolsonaro himself blamed Bruno and Dom for their own disappearance. He says, I'm going to read it, really, 2 people only in a boat in a region that, completely wild is an adventure that we do not recommend. Anything can happen. It could be an accident. It could be that they were executed. So he take this possibility as well. So do you think Bolsonaro has blood in his hand? Bolsonaro has a personal responsibility for the way the search, at least for the way the search has been dealt with? How would you see his responsibility in Dom's case?
I mean, this is just my opinion, but yeah, I do think he has something to do with it. An adventure, I mean, that's not really Dom. I don't know Bruno, but I know Dom, and this was not an adventure. This was a research trip for his book. As I mentioned, he's extremely, extremely thorough. He's not going to write a book about the Amazon without actually being in the Amazon and really unpacking everything that's going on over there and speaking to the people and going into these remote depths. This is not an adventure. This is a work trip. And like I said, it just seems like it's a very convenient place to make him disappear. And when I read that, the thing that you just read, I did read it, and I was just offended by the fact that he was calling it an adventure, and it's not recommended. Most people are not doing that. It's not even possible for most people to go on this kind of in-depth trip down into the Amazon. So no, this was not.
With respect to the victims, to the family, to the friends, and especially when Bruno is one of the most respected experts in the region. So these are people who really know what they're doing, where they're going, or have the right contacts and have been there for a long, long time, right? It's shocking, I understand. So yesterday there was a protest in the Brazilian embassy. We saw she and Phillips, Dom's sister, and her husband. They went to talk to the Brazilian ambassador. And I asked him, what do you think the Brazilian... I have to tell you, I have sent a letter to the Brazilian embassy asking what the embassy knows about it, which British authorities has contacted the embassy, what the embassy has done so far. And the response of the Brazilian embassy to me was that they could not reply to me because the Freedom of Information Act do not apply to the Brazilian embassy. But we do have a Freedom of Information Act in Brazil as well. So they just use a formal argument to evade all the questions. They are very much in place to respond. So what do you think the Brazilian ambassador role should be in this respect?
I think they should be as transparent as possible. This is, Dom is a UK person, and he's, like I said, he's a very well-known, internationally respected journalist. The responsibility is to the entire world. It's not just it's not country-based. It's not based on the freedom in England or the freedom in Brazil. It's just no. This is an international journalist and the information about him needs to be revealed from anybody who has it. I mean, I can't even imagine what his family must feel through. Just the way I feel, I can't imagine how they're feeling. And they definitely need to be more forthcoming with what they know, with what the plan is, with how they're moving forward. And we need to see some action. I was very excited to see that protest outside the Brazilian embassy. I was glad to see, I'm going, not all these people know him. They're out there, they're with signs, they're making sure that this is constantly talked about. I feel like it's talked about more and more every day, which gives me some hope. Initially when I heard about it, I was like, oh my God, I have to mentally prepare myself to never see it. And then now I'm like, I don't know, maybe it's possible. Maybe it's possible if enough people are making noise, if it's visible enough.
So we know there are a lot of people who are, there are people coming forward as witnesses, but they are afraid to talk. There was a note released that there are people who apparently have heard or seen something but they are afraid for their lives to talk. What do you think it should be known so that we can listen to those who might know where Dom is?
They need to feel like they're protected because they're probably scared for their own lives. But I just don't feel like that's possible, unfortunately. I don't know that that's possible in Brazil, because these people are even more inconsequential, of course they're not, but they're more inconsequential in the minds of the people that are in charge of what's happened to Dom, or who are behind what's happened to Dom. These people, to them, are even less important, or not important at all. And so I understand their fear. And I think that they know that it is just like almost too much of a risk for them to put themselves in order to provide additional information.
Am I right to understand that you think that there is a shared responsibility of the Brazilian authorities for what is going on right now?
Absolutely. Absolutely there is. They're the only ones that can do anything. I can't do anything from here except, talk about it. They can actually do some action. I can't. I mean, there's no way I can go and find him. If I could, I would. But there just isn't. It is their responsibility.
Lily, I'd like to ask you if you want to make an appeal to the Brazilian public who are watching you right now. We have a huge audience. And if you want to get to any word you want to get out there about Dom and about what people should do, feel free. Just please, your final words.
Don't let this just stop being talked about. It's really important for us to keep talking about it, keep bringing attention to it, not forget about it until we have some answers. Even if it's the worst possible outcome, we need to have some answers, but let's keep talking about it until they're found. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Lily, thank you for being with us.
Thanks again for reaching out to me.